Awesome. All right. Well, to that end, I'm going to jump right in. I've got a list of about 15, but for the purposes of today's recording, let's see if we can get through 3 to 5 of these. And one of the first things that I hear CEOs say, Jack, and this is often from either smaller companies, so companies that are still growing, maybe in that sub 5, sub 10 million, or it's in those companies where you have a very charismatic kind of big personality, CEO, entrepreneur, president, a founder, who's gone out there and they're flying the flag, right? They're out there, they're building relationships, they're driving the sales function themselves. They may have a few other salespeople that they've hired in, but the owner, entrepreneur, founder feels like they're stuck in the sales seat. It's almost like, well, if you remove me, this house of cards is going to come down. There's no mastery and autonomy from the rest of the sales team if you remove me from the equation. And I know you've had lots of experience with these kinds of companies. So I'm interested in your view. If somebody is stuck in the sales seat, what would you recommend, propose that they do to get unstuck?
Well, the first thing for me, and I do a good bit of CEO coaching around the world, is I need clarity about vision. And I don't want it to be this soft stuff. I really want to know what ideally you would like your company to be. What does it look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 8 years from now? If you gave some examples of size. If you're a $5 million company, and let's just say that you're pulling out of that $750,000 to $1 million in profit, is that put you into a happy state, or does that just give you the beginnings of where you'd like to go, and you'd like to scale that to 30 million or 20 million with a requisite bottom line profitability as well, right? Mm-hmm. If you're the main rainmaker, if you're the catalyst for that, even if you've added a few salespeople along the organization, that may work for some people. And so I say, don't feel like outside pressures, everyone talking about, hey, you could be much bigger and grow and so forth. Go within yourself and figure out what you really want it to be, right? Mm. But what I can tell you, Mornay, is that if your ambitions and your vision is bigger than where you're at, you're not going to get there by you being the main salesperson. It just doesn't work. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many calls you can make and take and orders to write. There's only so many relationships you can build and develop. And so it doesn't work. Now, recognize there's good news here for everybody that's in this situation. There aren't many successful businesses of size where they weren't started by somebody that was in that seat as the main rainmaker, right? It's just they made the move and transitioned out. Right. Having built 6 companies myself from scratch into national firms in the U.S., well, I started as the guy that was making it rain. But I didn't want to be that person for the rest of time. I had a clear vision, and I knew I needed to have people. They weren't going to be necessarily in the beginning as effective as I was, maybe. It would take them more time to get there. But that's where you have to divide your time from, in effect, making more rain to getting salespeople on board and getting their skill set up. Your hands are dirty, and I mean that in a good way, because you're inside companies in a very deeper way than I am these days. Yeah. So when you run into that situation, what are you dealing with? What does it look like from your perspective?
Well, I love where you started with that conversation, about what is your vision? Because I often say that to CEOs that I encounter. I say to them, look, if you're telling me you're stuck in the sales seat, let's not make an assumption, first and foremost, that that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's actually determine whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? And what I mean by that is the majority of companies that I meet when I'm out there speaking like you are, Jack, and meeting businesses is These companies want to build what I think is the brass ring, right? And that is a repeatable, scalable selling system. If you want to build a repeatable, scalable selling system, if you want to get to a point in your business where eventually the golden handcuffs come off, where you're able to go to Europe for a month with your family and this sales engine is still operating, then you being stuck in the sales seat is in fact a huge, huge problem. If you're trying to run a lifestyle business where it's you on your own or you and one salesperson and a virtual assistant running around and you are, as you said, you're profitable to the tune of 15, 20, 25% net, and that's all that you want, not only am I not going to judge you, I'm going to say, God bless you, because you're going to sleep better than the most of us, right? You're going to have a fantastic life. You're going to do your thing, but understand that if I remove you from that equation, that business no longer operates, right? That's a lifestyle business, what we call a lifestyle business. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're building. So let's first distinguish which one are you? Are you building a lifestyle business or are you building a repeatable, scalable selling system? Now, if we assume that you're doing the latter, the repeatable, scalable, well, then you being stuck in the sales seat is in fact a problem. And this is actually a much bigger topic than I think people realize. So I'll just do the soundbite version of my answer. Mm-hmm. And that is first and foremost, and this is something, Jack, that I really learned from you, and I've advocated ever since. Almost everything in sales starts with culture. And what I mean by that is I meet so many CEOs who respectfully talk an incredibly good game about how they don't want to be stuck in the sales seat. But if we then observe, if my company Immerse then observes what they're doing day to day and the quality of the decision making, they are negating what they say they want. They are not empowering their people. They are not, in fact, committing to the kind of development and the school fees that you need to pay in order to get your sales team to have mastery and autonomy. And the one thing that they absolutely don't do, and this is something that you and I both speak about the 3 sins of sales management, they definitely don't hire a sales manager early enough. Mm-hmm. If you're especially if you're an entrepreneurial CEO, you have this narrative that runs in your head about, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to fly the flag, I'm going to hire whatever the number is in your head. Let's say it's 5 salespeople. I'm going to hire the first 5 salespeople. And then when I get to 5, then I think that I've got to critical mass, and now I'm going to parachute in a sales manager. The problem with that, of course, is very often the 5 salespeople that you've hired, you've subconsciously attracted people that you think are self-starters, right? The kind of people that don't need management, because wearing 5 different hats, you don't have the time to do the things that need to be done. You can't do performance coaching and accountability, all this kind of stuff. So the day that you parachute in that manager is the day everything goes wrong, because those entrepreneurial self-starting salespeople don't want to work for a professional sales manager. So this journey that you need to go on to extract yourself from that seat has lots of trap doors and kind of dead ends. And I would say that what you really need is somebody to help you navigate through that, because it is possible to do. You and I have both done it in companies that we've started, but we've also made all of the mistakes that we talked about. And that's how we know where the trap doors are and where the dead ends are.
Yeah, let me tag on one other thing though. That hesitancy to get that sales manager earlier in the game. I think that comes from I can't afford that person at this moment in time, right? Yeah. But if you hire the right person and you compensate them correctly, which is highly predicated on performance, they should pay for themselves in the first year of hire with the increased business that they drive through their team. So, if you're interested in that scalable business as you described, then item number 1 is go find yourself somebody to build that team, right? That's where I come from. I can't deal very well with the logic of I'm going to wait until X, Y, and Z happens. That doesn't make sense to me.
And then
let me add one more thing. Yeah. And this is gone way different from what we've been talking about so far, but same issue. I have a couple of clients on the CEO coaching business I do that are the rainmaker, the chief rainmaker, and happen to love it, and they own the company, and they're operating with the other hat, which is the CEO hat. So they've got the CEO hat, they got the sales manager hat, and they have the top salesperson hat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where their joy is in that sales arena.
Mm.
And I want my client to at least consider owning the company and hiring someone to run the day to day, and let them
Beautiful.
stay in that sales yard because that's what they love and they're good at it.
I actually think that's a really interesting point that doesn't get made enough. And that is the fact that you own the company does not necessitate you being the CEO or the president. In fact, being the owner of the company, I think if we look at the success stories of so many companies, the ones that have had longevity is where the entrepreneur recognizes that I had a superpower. Maybe it's my tolerance of risk. Maybe it's my visionary, ability, whatever it is. I have a superpower that's allowed me to create this company from a blank sheet of paper to whatever, size it gets to. But the bit that often gets missed is the second superpower that you need as an entrepreneur is when to step out of the ring and say, you know what? Actually, I am the visionary. I am the rainmaker. How about I hire a professional CEO? And I do the thing that I'm exceptional at. I do the thing, you and I would call it high payoff activities. I do the thing that only I could or should be doing. And I have the foresight to hire a professional CEO to make sure that somebody's conducting the orchestra. And I think that's actually a great point that you're making, Jack, because not enough people are talking about that.
Yeah. So, of my client 1-800 Got Junk,
Yes.
and the founder and owner of the company, Brian Scudamore. And, what Brian recognized, I mean, he started it by buying a used truck, and it was called the Rubbish Boys. And he sat on the truck and picked up the junk and took it to the dump. Like, and he
Wow.
brought the sales in, and he was wearing all the hats and blah, 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 blah. And now they're north of $500 million, going to $1 billion. But he shares something called two in a box. And on the org chart, he has his name and another person's name, which is Eric Church. And
Right.
what Brian has is he has the vision and the
Mm,
culture.
mm,
And Eric has everything else that has to do with the day to day running the business.
yeah.
And and it's brilliant, and I think it's one of the key foundations of their growth and
Mm,
profitability
mm, mm.
success.
By the
And
way, 1-800-JUNK still, if the listeners want to look this up on YouTube, one of my favorite examples of a daily huddle is 1-800-JUNK on YouTube. Just incredible how those guys run their huddles. It always makes me smile.